please call the roll? Present.
Present.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'll call on Commissioner Powell, Dr. Powell, on the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Commissioners, I would ask your indulgence in moving item 13 to 14B for the presentation from the Aviation Maintenance Program from Emir Roswell.
So I have a motion from Commissioner Powell to approve the agenda, moving item 13 and making it item 4B. Do I have a second? I have a second by Commissioner Call. Any discussion or debate on the proposed agenda? Hearing none, I'll ask for a voice vote. A yes or aye approves the agenda as amended or modified. A no or nay rejects it. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, passes 5-0. Next up, item number 4, approval of the minutes. I have a motion by Commissioner Call to approve the minutes of the March 18th, 2021 meeting as presented. Second by Dr. Powell. Any discussion or debate on the minutes? Hearing none, I'll ask for a voice vote. A yes or aye approves the minutes as presented. A no or nay rejects them. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, passes 5-0. So first item up, Eastern New Mexico Roswell Aviation Maintenance Program. Dr. Powell.
Mayor, Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to present a short presentation on our aviation maintenance program. I'm going to introduce Ty Watley, who is our program director for this program, and I also want to recognize Anne Marie Ofield, who is our vice president for academic and student affairs, and she's with us today. So.
Thank you for letting me come by here and speak to you today. I came through our program 15 years ago, and to me it was the single greatest learning experience of my life. And but it seems to be the best kept secret in New Mexico, and we're trying to do something about that. And we created a video to help with that process to get more people involved with what we do. Can you play that video, please?
The idea of flight, the need to grow past our basic capabilities and experience what was once thought impossible will forever keep aviation technology evolving. With that is the ever-increasing need for accomplished maintenance technicians. Humans have always been in love with the idea of flight, the need to grow past our basic capabilities and experience what was once thought impossible will forever keep aviation technology evolving. With that is the ever-increasing need for accomplished maintenance technicians.
We were already in something of a crisis because the average age for an A&T mechanic working on everything from jetliners to Piper Cubs, small guys, the average age got to be 58 years old. And there's a huge demand. There's people who are retiring, actually bringing them in. The COVID crisis, you might think that it would be, well, that's going to be terrible for the industry. It's something of a reprieve, really. Because by 2025, the FAA has already predicted that the demand's going to be back where they were in 19. Boeing themselves said over the next 20 years, we're going to need almost 200,000 new mechanics for the United States alone. 750,000 worldwide. That's just in 20 years.
On a typical day, we get here before 7 a.m. and we go to the classroom for a lecture. After the lecture, we usually go out to the hangar and perform some labs that the teachers created to help us get a better understanding of what we're doing specifically in that class.
Taking flight is no walk in the park. From beginning to end, a top-notch team is needed to keep every passenger safe and comfortable. It requires a sharp pilot, an innovative engineer, and more importantly, well-trained, dedicated maintenance technicians.
We have the same approach every time we come to an aircraft. In the nursing program here, we have OSCE, where they talk to a patient to determine what their symptoms are. You have trouble breathing, or how do you feel, and whatnot. The airplane can't talk to us, but it can talk to us by using our troubleshooting trees and our other methodology. We will depend on the mechanic, the pilot, to tell us what is the system doing that's not where it's supposed to be. And then we'll go out there and make our physical inspection of it. At the same time, we have our technical manuals there to help us go through a troubleshooting tree to determine just what the issue could be and take steps from there to correct it.
Industry throughout the nation, throughout the world even, needs great mechanics working on equipment and programs that they have for their companies. But for us, with the former Air Force Base here in Roswell, we have a lot of airplanes here. And the students have the capability and ability, once they receive their training, to be certified by the FAA and go on to working on airplanes that serve as passengers and cargo.
With aviation maintenance personnel in such high demand, it is of the utmost importance that training be of a high caliber. That is why many choose Eastern New Mexico University, Roswell.
Well, we're one of the oldest in the country. We started out in a small post office here across the way. We used Hangar 85, where Air Sail is now. This building here was constructed in the 1980s and expanded heavily in the early 2000s. We were recognized by Bill O'Brien, one of the guru from the FAA, for being the best bang for the buck for an airframe and power plants course.
Well, the students here at Eastern New Mexico in the program are part of a partnership with our secondary schools, our high schools, through a program we call Career Tech Education. Career Technical Education, or CTE, is a program where students can transfer directly from high school to Eastern's campus to get the skills they need to advance into the aviation industry. The aviation industry is a fairly large industry, obviously. But what's really good about that is that the students that are here are from the region generally. And they're going to stay here and grow their families and grow their lives and their careers with great compensation, great benefits, and learn a great skill set that's going to make them marketable for anything they want to pursue, especially in the aircraft industry.
ENMU Roswell is dedicated to empowering their students through a nurturing and trusting environment built on mutual respect. Within the aviation maintenance technology programs, students thrive knowing that the faculty and community are supporting their success.
I chose ENMU Roswell because I felt like a community college in a smaller school or classroom setting would benefit me more than going to a larger school where I don't get much one-on-one time with my teachers, or I'm not able to build relationships with them where I can contact them if I ever have questions or doubts about what I'm doing.
First thing that we try to instill is an attention to detail. What are they looking at when they're actually looking at the aircraft? The ability to read the maintenance manuals and to interpret them and use them to correct any issues that are wrong, or to make certain that it is all correct. By them coming here, they get that individual training that makes a difference to them, where they understand it.
To learn more, contact us today.
Very cool. right, excellent.
That's one part of what we're trying to do. We're hoping to get we put in for an FAA grant to help us with recruiting. We won't be finding out about that until July. But we're not going to back out of the throttle as far as doing our recruiting. However, COVID, with the issues with being present in be able to talk to young people and being able to travel with no issues has slowed down. That said, we're still going forward with it as best we can.
All right.
Y'all have any questions?
Questions, comments? Terrific. Now, what is the length of the program and what's the approximate cost?
I can't really recall right off the top of my head what the tuition costs are. I depend on Jenna Lamb for our transportation controller. She's got those numbers right off the top of her head.
Okay.
I might be correct, but I believe it's about $4,000 in tuition, and they have to bring their own books.
Okay.
Their own books, which most of them are FAA supplied. That's free of charge from online, and their tools.
Okay.
So we're talking about maybe $6,000 to kick off in a career that starts paying right out the door. It's not too good, but it doesn't take very long once they've got their qualifications and they prove that they are a good, not just a good mechanic, but a good employee who shows up on time, lights on, and ready to be part of the team. They move forward, move up quickly in any industry.
Okay. Very good. Anything else? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Item number 5, Mr. Stark.
Afternoon, Commissioners, Mr. Mayor. As usual, I'll start with my briefing, and then since we now have an Assistant Director, as you see on the agenda, I've added a second briefing for him, and he'll split up the business development and leases side of it. But we'll start like we normally do and talk about the operational numbers that we've had over the last month. Our aircraft operations are up a little bit. They're pretty much not that far out of norm now. They're 174% of what we had a year ago, but when you compare that to what happened last month, we just tend to see, an up and a down. Not a whole lot of movement. Next month, I think you'll see a lot of movement because of the Navy being here for the last couple of weeks, so that'll add to it. The most interesting thing I think in this report today is probably the passenger boarding. Our passenger boardings were for the month of March were 5,049. So what that means is that's almost double what we had a year ago this time when things were beginning to go down, and it exceeds February of 20. February of 19. So, it was 20, but at any rate, sorry, I'm reading my notes and reading them badly. But at any rate, the point is, I think our airline service is recovering very well, and we haven't really begun to see anything on Phoenix yet because that didn't start till this month. So this is just March and doesn't include any of the Phoenix numbers. This is purely 2 flights going to Dallas, so I'm excited about that. Our flow fees again are high at 218% of what they were a year ago. Landing fees are just the opposite for the opposite reason with COVID. So as you compare March of this month to March of this year to March of last year, it's 5,212 compared to 32,353. But as you guys remember probably, we had 30 planes coming in a day from the airlines back in March last year. And so that's why that number is so high. So it kind of flips a little bit for the same reason, but when you compare it to last month, it was 1,893. So we've got 5,212 for this year, 1,893 for last month. So it's up a lot over last month. Not sure what's driving that other than just we've had a few more of the bigger planes coming in, so they draw a higher price. As United brings in the airplanes to get their engines changed out and some of the other big planes come in, I think that's what's tipping that number up. Our parking fees are running about the same as they have been, 334% of of last year. They were already beginning to tick up in March of last year as well. So we'll see those numbers start to get closer together probably from here on out. When you look at what we had last month, it was 167,619. So that's even up now over last month this year. So I mentioned the Navy earlier. I think everybody knows they've been here for the last couple of weeks. Today is their last day. I didn't get a report yet on the final ops, but I'll bring that to you next month. They had 8 planes here. They had about 50 students, about 50 instructors, and I think it's 30 or so mechanics. So I think a pretty big impact on the city. Of course, they were heads in beds and paying for those rooms, so bringing lodger's tax and eating in our restaurants. And we're happy to have them here again, even though we didn't get the full 25 that we would normally get for 3 months. Even having the 8 for 2 weeks is great. And I want to say thanks especially to EDC for the support that they provided in the luncheons over at Los Cerritos. I think those were beneficial. Boeing is coming with a 777-900 next week. Actually, they'll begin arriving on Sunday. The plane will be here on the 21st. And they'll be working for 5 to 7 days doing brake testing and wet runway testing, involving about 150 people. So pretty big deal. They're leasing part of one of Aflight's hangars for their operations and building 1,000 from us for their office side and training and all of those things that they have to do inside for that. So we're pretty excited about that. We started Phoenix marketing at the end of last month, and as we began to see Phoenix getting started and anticipating, looking at the bookings ahead of time, that they weren't that great, that we needed to step up our marketing game. So we added to that and started a marketing campaign here locally as well, geofencing locally, and trying to remember billboard and what else, Juanita?
Over there.
Where are you?
Other.
There you are. You guys want to see it?
Yes.
Okay. It's too early to tell just yet what that marketing will do for us, but I think in a few weeks we should know that it's working or it's not, and we can change our strategy.
All right, so what we did is we're doing 2 campaigns, one directly in the Phoenix area and then one locally here. So this one is our creative concepts just for our local region. So Roswell, Carlsbad, Artesia, and then so what you're going to see is the actual campaign concept. You're going to see something a little bit different than what we displayed for the Phoenix campaign, but something that ties in. So headline, fly nonstop to Phoenix, stop the delay and that vacay, depart your everyday. Those are kind of our sub headlines. And you'll also notice a difference here. We had a Fly Roswell logo that we used that kind of showcased the Air Center's runway. And we felt it was important to tie in our new brand design with our airplane and the green R, and it'll say flyroswell.com. We won't be eliminating the flyroswell.com, but you're going to see the actual web page change over into more of our brand. So these are some of the billboards that are going to be running. You'll see the recommendation, and I'm skipping through these. Artesia will be running 426 through 523 right there off of Main. Will also be in the Artesia Daily Press 3 times on their front page cover banner, and we'll have that digital billboard. We'll be running in Carlsbad. Carlsbad newspaper is really expensive, so we opted not to choose their newspaper. Instead, we're going to do an 8-week campaign in Carlsbad. We'll run from 426 through 620. It'll be a right read and then the left read on each of those, and we'll flip-flop for 4 weeks. 1 right and then 1 left. And then this is our placement budget. It's a local budget here. It's about $6,000. It just kind of tells you when we're running and when we're not. And then next steps is just the approval. That was something that we looked at. So this is a little bit of what you're going to see. We are running in the Roswell Daily Record as well. We'll be on the sports header. They don't have a front page banner that we can purchase, so we opted for the sports. And then we are looking into the mayor has graciously offered his voice for some voiceovers for a radio campaign that will also reach Carlsbad and Artesia's market. So this is what it looks like.
Okay. Questions on this part? I appreciate it, yeah. I'm anxious as soon as we get numbers on Phoenix as soon as we can. So maybe next month we can have something.
Yeah, I think we can do that. I'm kind of thinking that we probably need to let it run for a couple of weeks and let, so we can see the actuals, and then we can see bookings ahead to see what it's running. Because it's so
Gotcha.
new, it'd take a little bit for people to see our stuff.
And I would encourage all the members of the commission to keep getting the word out there that the flights have resumed. Occasionally I run into somebody who will ask me, when does the Phoenix flight start again? And I'm like, it already has. Go ahead and make your reservation. So.
And then one other thing that we'll be able, once the campaign is complete, we'll give you a analytic report, how many click-throughs, how many conversions actually booked to the actual plane ticket and ridership report. So that won't happen until the very end, but Scott can definitely give you some information as he sees the booking numbers go up. So thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. So continuing back with yours.
Yep. Moving on to the last piece of my report. 2 weeks ago, or a week and a half ago now, we had our FAA Part 139 inspection on the airport. Came out very well. We didn't really have anything that we didn't expect. It's the typical write-ups that you get on an airport. We had, we actually had one surprise, and so I, of course, threw Armstrong under the bus immediately. But we had our runway 35 windsock was 3 feet too close to the runway. Now, obviously, throwing them under the bus was just for fun because they weren't even involved. It was way before Armstrong. But the interesting thing with that is that it's been there a long time, and it's the first time they've noticed it. So as we move through runway improvements on that runway, we'll need to move that windsock out at least 3 feet to get compliant again. And then the other things were, we had some dirt blown out on the south end near the hammerhead that was blown out by aircraft high-power engine runs. If you've ever driven by there and seen the huge cloud of dust going by, I know Matt's very familiar with it. That's what's going on. That's our airport disappearing into outer space. And then the other write-ups were paint markings that we knew were worn and needed to be replaced. So we'll get those things all turned around and be back in great shape again. But mostly we got compliments on our airport that it is in really, really good shape. So that's compliments to everybody involved in doing it, my staff, and then, of course, everybody in the city for the funding and support that we get. And that is all.
Any questions?
Mr. Mayor, if I could, what's the number of aircraft that are parked on the road?
I didn't have a chance to do it yet this week, but last week it was 495.
495. Thank you.
Other questions? Anything new in Old Municipal Airport, or is that going to be covered in Steve's presentation?
No, I think that actually that won't be covered in either. The short answer is there's really not any final movement yet. We are at some final stages. Steve may cover maybe a little bit of that, but I mean, they did come out and do a compliance inspection with us in conjunction with the Part 139 inspection. And so really they've got a few more questions to answer before they can move forward to that.
And the Ergon sale?
We're still at the final on that. I got what I needed today that I need to forward to Gene and then move on. I think we're almost there.
Okay. Hopefully we'll be done by next month. All right, anything else, councilors? All right. Okay. Mr. Christopher.
For that.
Oops.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, councilors, the Anchorage commissioners. So first I owe you an apology because when I came here last month, I said I was going to take it easy and break in slow, but that hasn't been the case. So with that, the new tenants, Ascent has signed their next step to move forward. So that allows the city to find the next step to move forward to get final for their come in. So we're in the process. It's better. So we've got the next level of commitment. So hopefully by next month, we'll be able to ready to have the lease. Business development, again, like Mr. Stark said, we had FAA come in. The first day was compliance for lease rates and properties. Again, we're waiting on the finals on that. The one thing that did get brought up verbal is that we have to come up to market rate, fair market rate for aeronautical and non-aeronautical. So for the non-aeronautical side, we've got it pretty much complete. Got good numbers. For the aeronautical side, we're having to extend because we're having to find rates that are comparable to our size airport and industrial, because our intention is to stay with the industrial rate so that we're not doing commercial airline rate. So it's to be fair to the tenants, but if we want to stick with that industrial side, which I'll explain later, this is why we're having to expand our search, and we've got some help with that. As far as other development, we have two RFIs out. One is for a rotary aircraft manufacturing facility. If that goes through, which we did make the advance notice on that, so we will be getting an RFP within 60 days. That'll be start off with 75 local jobs. They're going to have to bring in their engineers, technical staff, but there'll be 75 local jobs is what the RFI gathered. So that's still a positive. The other RFI that we haven't heard back on is engine manufacturing. So hopefully next month I can give you an advance on that. As Mr. Stark said, Bowen will be here next week. Sikorsky, we're trying to get clear. They're trying to come in with a drone and use the parking area for training for crash site investigation. If that gets approved with the FAA, we're expecting them to use this long term, which is pretty good because they're training, it says up to 200 people on this technology. So essentially they got a mapping software, they put in a drone, they fly it over, they can detect parts and stuff, and it helps them correlate their reports. So it's always going to be good when you have safety related. NTSB will be related with that. So that's a huge positive. We can get Sikorsky. And this morning we just got an email from an MRO in Europe. They're interested in coming here. Got to start the meeting Monday, our first meeting with that. So that just popped up on us today. And then this is related to the RFI, which we think is, we had potential investors call, and we've had a couple of conference calls with them. And the investors are the ones that built the Alliance Airport out of Fort Worth. For those of you all that don't understand or don't know about it, this is an airport that was built, it's the first industrial airport built for industry. There's a book called Aerotropolis. If you're interested in reading on it, the book was basically based on that operation model and what it did for the community. And so essentially what the goal is for Roswell is what Alliance Airport did 18, 20 years ago. So we're excited about that. And what happened was they called us on a Saturday. They were wanting to do a conference call on a Monday, and we didn't want to waste any time because got opportunity like that, you don't neglect it. So Monday morning, they wanted to do it Monday at 3:30. Monday morning, we got on the phone with the Armstrong engineers. We asked them to be ready for 3:30, and they gave a phenomenal presentation on the short whim. So they deserve kudos for that, too. Since Scott rolled them under the bus, I got to give them a kudo. And then on the new and renewal leases, we've got one new potential lease on the horizon. We've got one renewal, and we're working on bringing the current leaseholders up to current market rates. Again, we're having a little bit of issue on the aeronautical side. FAA kind of gave us guidance to seek on the non-aeronautical side, which we're pretty much implementing that. And we've compared those rates with current realtors in the Roswell area to make sure that we are in ball field there. So. And with that, I need to introduce Ms. Denise Garcia. She's going to be the contracts manager. And one of the things too that goes for the business development is we've kind of all three, her and Mr. Stark and I have been thrown into a lot of stuff at one time. And for the short time we've been together, which I'll address later, in the business development is we've done pretty well just learning each other's personalities real quick and get things done. So with that, I'll turn it over so she can introduce herself.
Good afternoon. I've met some of you at the last meeting, but my name is Denise Garcia, and I am from Roswell. I grew up here, and I worked for the Roswell Independent School District as a grant writer for 15 years. I had the AmeriCorps program, which is a mentoring and tutoring program with the elementary schools, helping high school students earn a stipend so that they can go to college. So it was a win-win for the schools and for the students. I worked with a lot of nonprofits here in Roswell, so I'm excited to get back into that and help out wherever I can. I moved to Houston, Texas in 2008, and I worked for a global engineering construction company for 14 years. So that gave me a lot of insight in facility management, and I learned a lot there. And so coming back to Roswell, I wanted to come back for personal reasons, for family, to be here with my parents. And I'm excited that I was able to get hired with Scott at the Air Center, and I'm looking forward to helping out in any way that I can. The Air Center has a lot of potential, and I'm excited to just get in and see what we need to do so that we can do better things with the Air Center.
Okay.
Thank you.
Questions, comments, counselors, commissioners?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. If you have any questions, please feel free to call me at the Air Center. I have a cell phone yet, but I will soon.
Okay. All right.
Well, that's all I have on this one. Is there any questions? Kind of threw a lot at you fast.
Well, you're coming back up again on the strategic business plan, so.
Yes, sir.
I got some questions there. All right.
Okay.
All right. Item 7. So is Christmas. He has no supervision. All right.
Good afternoon. So we had COVID shots yesterday, so I'm by myself. Everybody's sick.
Okay.
So Scott asked me if I give a brief update on IT. So as of May 1st, we're supposed to be out of this building, except for City Council. So we've come up with a plan. I've talked to Joe and Dr. Juan, and we're going to standardize our conference rooms. So we have 16-ish conference rooms that are going to be identical. You can work one, you can work them all. We're going to do 2 conference rooms at the airport. They'll both be identical. We're setting up the first one at City Hall as soon as we get the equipment in. It's been ordered. But the big question is next month. So we're really not ready anywhere, but we'll make whatever we need to work. So a decision for you guys and Scott and everybody is just, we can make whatever work at City Hall, or we can make it work out at the airport if you guys prefer to be back out there. So that can be discussion for you guys, and we'll make it work. It may not be the best for the first month, but after May, we hopefully have stuff more lined out.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted you guys to be alert. So we will be leaving this facility, and my preference, and I only have one vote. Oh, I do have a vote, though. In the future, I could have a vote. All right, is that we would be at the Air Center. I mean, it'd be more convenient for Dr. Powell, for Matt, and I think the rest of us. It would be nice to be there. It'd be good for our tenants to be able to come and attend. So my preference is for us to be able to do it there. But I get it. It might not be ready in May. We may be in City Hall for May.
But it doesn't matter even if we just want to do it out there, because we're going to kind of be portable. So in May, we may still be using the old projector and stuff that they currently have.
Okay.
We could make everything else work.
Okay. Well,
With the GoTo and the streaming as well.
Let's play it by ear for now.
Okay.
And we'll get closer, because,
Probably got a couple.
yeah. I'm trying to think when they, when it's May 20th is the next meeting of this group, so that's out there. That's 5 weeks from now.
Right. As long as equipment availability,
Okay.
with the chip shortage, equipment's coming kind of scarce.
Well, I hear you. Okay. Any questions? GoToMeeting, by the way, if you're not familiar with it, commissioners, is what the platform, for want of a better term, that we use to participate remotely. So if any of you are ever somewhere else, I would get with Jeff and make sure you have it on whatever device you want to use. That way you can participate, and it works. We use it in city council all the time.
And that's part of our new integration is we will be using, it's going to be a combination between Kramer equipment and Logitech equipment for our video conferencing capabilities.
Okay.
So that will all still be available and actually better than what we're currently doing.
Okay. Anything else? All right, we're good? All right, thank you. Mr. Fuentes.
Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, so I have a brief PowerPoint.
Hold it.
And the presentation, the financial report, I will be presenting it in the format that we are required when we need to submit the CATS report through FAA website. So I'm going to be using some of the FAA terminology in my report. So what I want to I know we have some new faces here, so I just kind of want to give just a general overview of just some of the terminology that I'll be using, and just to kind of give everybody just a quick overview of how we categorize certain revenues and certain things. Again, just the airport is an enterprise fund, and it is required to perform all their activities as business type activities. And we account for it in other activities of the city, such as the water, sewer, landfill, and of course the airport and sanitation. The primary goal of an enterprise fund is self-sufficiency. So the city of Roswell, we have about three funds. Fund 5100, which is the main fund, airport fund. We have 5130, the passenger facility charge fund, and then we have another fund that was dedicated for the airport, is the UDAG, what we refer to the UDAG Urban Development Action Grant. And I will kind of briefly describe some of those. So when we talk about the revenue types, aeronautical revenue, what we're talking about there is directly associated with aviation activity. You're talking about landing fees, terminal hangar rents, water sales, fuel tax. When you talk about non-aviation, non-aeronautical revenue, that's rent on non-aviation facilities, concession fees, rental car operations, parking, concession sales. And then you have your non-operating revenues. That's passive income from sources not directly associated with airport operation. We're talking about your interest on any funds we may have with the bank, FAA and state grants, the PFCs, and customer facility charges, which we do not have at this time. And those, both the PFC and customer facility charges are restricted. They have very specific guidelines that we have to follow. So when we talk about the airport, the main fund, 5100, we're accounting for all of the operating expenses there. You're talking about your personnel, your services, supplies, materials, communications, and utilities. It also accounts for some capital outlay, debt service, and any transfers out. The passenger facility charge fund, again, it allows airports to collect a maximum of $4.50 per enplanement and must be set aside for FAA-approved projects. There is a process that Scott goes through to make sure there's a list of approved projects, and then he applies any related expenses to that list and gets it approved. And we will highlight a little bit of what that activity has been over the years. Again, PFCs are treated as local funds. Federal requirements are not necessary, just like the other entitlement grants. May be used for sponsor share FAA grants, may be used to fund standalone projects, or to pay finance cost on debt service. It's PFC. And on the UDAG, that's a fund that has existed for within our books for a number of years. In 2019, the city Roswell, the mayor and council approved a resolution that essentially dedicated the balance of that fund for the airport and their capital outlay needs. Right now, we're still sitting at around $1 million.
On that, the UDAG program lapsed in the Reagan administration, which is, tells you how long, this money has been sitting here for
Yes.
40 years,
It's
almost.
been there for a long time. That's
Yeah.
correct. And and again, and we were able to get it reverted back since the program has expired, and the council authorized it to dedicate it towards.
Okay, sorry.
Yes. All right. So now we go into the numbers, okay? So as you can see here on this slide, I broke down the city's financial reporting into the categories that we are required to submit to the FAA under the Compliance Activity Tracking System, what's referred to as CATS. So that's, given the opportunity to provide the commission an update, I figure might as well do it, kill two birds with one stone, provide the update in this format, which will serve us when we have to update the reporting in that website. So when you look at the first category under passenger airline aeronautical revenue, you can see the trend there from 2016 moving forward. Where we're sitting now as of period 10, this is not, this is up to this month, so it's still, we still have about 2.5 to 3 months left to go for this fiscal year, but at least you see what we've been collecting so far. At the end of my report, I will give some more reconciled balance numbers for these funds. But for this report, as you can see, the main category here is terminal area apron charges and tie downs. We're sitting right now at $1.1 million. The last time we were up at that time was back in 2016, and a lot of it has to do because of all the planes that are sitting out there. And then we move on to non-passenger aeronautical revenue. You can see there it is pretty consistent, which at the bottom, the total revenue, we're higher than we were last year and the year before. When you go into the next category of non-aeronautical revenue, you look at the land and non-terminal leases. That category there, we're sitting at $1.8 million collected so far. And I really feel that, believe by the end of the fiscal year, we're going to exceed definitely the fiscal year 2019, and possibly even 2020. Overall, we're looking at sitting at 1.9 year-to-date collected in revenue. And as you can see, the total operating revenue since 2016, it's pretty consistent. So we're right now, we're at 3.4. And I think that number is just going to grow because we still have 2.5 months probably left to go before the end of the fiscal year. What this kind of gives you a visual representation of both the aeronautical revenue and non-aeronautical since 2010. And as you can see, the top line on the red, that is your non-aeronautical revenue, and it has consistently been growing. You have your peak, and then it's gone down a little bit. However, on your aeronautical revenue line, as you can see in 2016, I believe at that time, we also had a large number of planes out there parked. By that,
It was probably about 200, or maybe between 200 and 250, so less than half of what we have now.
Was that when the first MD-80 retirement occurred?
That was, I don't think that was 16, I think it was 17.
Okay.
But yeah, but we really had 3 waves of MD-80s come in. One they didn't celebrate, and it just came in, and then the other 2 they had celebrations for.
so, and as you can see now, of course, with all the planes that we have out there, now we see the same trend moving up. So it's a good trend. We continue to see higher revenues coming in. So that's just a visual representation there. The other categories, I just wanted to kind of give just general overview of the operating expenses for the Air Center. It is broken down in personnel, and all of these categories are specific categories required by the system. your communications and utilities, supplies, contractual services, and insurance. The one category I would highlight is the insurance claims and settlements, because you see in 2020 a big number there, and that is due to an insurance claim that was filed. I mean, sometimes when we have roofs blown because of a wind event, we file a claim, and then we have to fix it, and then insurance. So you see that activity, as well as you see that activity under other, both in 2018 and 2019, you see a big number there, and that is related to a lot of the roof repair that occurred from the prior, was it, I believe, 17 wind damage. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that was 15 for snow, and then it was 17 for hail, and then we had wind again in 19, so.
So you see a
Fun
lot
stuff.
of that activity in those years, so that's what's accounting for those big numbers there. But overall, when you compare just your revenue, operating expenses, we still have a operating net gain for that, for those categories. And this shows just a visual graph of those activities. As you can see there, anytime your operating revenue is the blue line, and of course your expenses is your red line, which anytime there is, whether it's a lot of repair, such as the roofs, or any building damage and repairs, you're going to see that peak go up, and then of course it goes down as just it begins to normalize, just as regular operations. The good thing is overall, our operating revenues are higher than our normal operating expenses, which is a good place to be. The other categories, again, are also considered both non-operating revenue and expenses, so it captures everything else outside of those two main categories. We're talking about here about your grant receipts, your grant revenue. You're talking about your PFCs, as you can see there. What we've transferred so far, year to date, is about $53,000. And then you see the prior years. So that accounts for that, all of the smaller activities related to grants. The one thing I will note, the big category there moving forward, is going to be the grant activity. There's going to be a lot more grant activity coming in 2022 fiscal year. In the next fiscal year, I will show a slide that shows some of the outstanding grants that will be part of, that will increase that line significantly next year. And this is on the main capital side. This is where we capture all of the capital expenses. As you can see there on the airfield, 2016, there was quite a bit of activity. Has gone down, but there is going to be activity picking up. And let me just jump in right into that list. This is a list of projects that we've been tracking, and these are projects that will carry over into the new fiscal year. We're right now in the process of developing the fiscal 22 budget, and these are all grants that will be moving forward. As you can see there, there's quite a bit of activity and numbers, and on some, we're waiting on the grants. But it's just a paperwork issue there. So this will be all that will be carried forward. And finally, just these are actual balance numbers, reconciled numbers for the Air Center different funds. When you look at where we were in 6/30, for example, in the main fund, 5,100, our cash balance there was 1.4 million. PFC, $260,000. That's always been about consistent number. UDAG, we haven't touched it yet, so it's still sitting at the $1 million. And then when you look at where we are on February 28th, these are actual reconciled numbers from the finance department. Air Center, 5,100, now we're sitting at $2.8 million, with PFC still at 306, and the UDAG at $1 million. So, and with that, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, I will stand for any questions.
All right, questions? I'm going to ask that we can make a copy of this available to the commission members. I mean, email this, I think, would be just fine. And that's, let me ask you then, one of the questions I've had is these different grants that we would be eligible for under CARES and COVID. Go back and look at this. So the fourth one down, CARES Act, Roswell Air Center grant. This is 1.2 million, and we're restricted to using it for operations and maintenance.
That's correct.
But we've talked about, my attorneys are staring at me. If we do this, if we spend it on this, then what we would normally have spent would then be free to use on capital. Is that a correct?
That is correct. So basically what we're looking at when we're talking about operations and maintenance is pretty much anything that's not a capital expense and anything that is not illegal for the airport to spend revenue on. So for example, it is illegal for the airport to spend airport revenue on an MRG. We can't subsidize the airlines. The city can do it from GRT, from the general fund, but the airport cannot do it with airport funds. So it comes down to, other than capital, it's anything that is legal for an airport to spend money on. So when, as you said, you're correct, Mr. Mayor, that as we shift that expense to the grant, it frees up cash in our reserve fund that could be repurposed for something else.
Can we do it retroactively?
What do you mean?
I mean, you've already spent well over $1 million on operations.
Yes.
Can we, in this current fiscal year of ours, can we just say this 1.2 goes towards that and then shift?
We can do it retroactively back to, I don't remember the date, but I want to say it's in April.
Of last year?
It's in the grant of last
Okay.
year. So yeah, we can do it that way. To make it make sense for us and to make it budgeting easy, I started on July 1. So
Okay.
the money that I've already asked for reimbursement on was our payroll from July 1 through February. And we've got a lot more of that to do.
Okay. So are we going to be able to eat up the 1.2 with that?
I'm going to try my hardest.
Okay.
I think the short answer is yes. It's getting creative with what we spend, look to reimburse. Our pay compensation and benefits will probably take up, I would say maybe half of it. And then we got to look, we can do it, we can use it for debt service. So, we've already paid our debt service for last year or whenever, if there's another one coming up before the end of this year, I mean, we can do it for that. Or we could probably make a payment and pay the debt completely off if that was what we chose to do, and then get reimbursement out of the grant as well.
Okay, he's opened a door there I wanted us to be familiar with. The debt service we currently have, if I'm not mistaken, is in connection with the rebuild of the roof for 1081, also known as Dean Baldwin. And do we know approximately what the debt, how much that, it wasn't a huge amount, it was like 2.5, 3 million, wasn't it
Yeah.
something like that?
Yeah, I want to say it was 2 million or a little more. I don't remember exactly.
So if we paid that off, the revenue stream, which was revenue, it was a revenue bond based upon activity at the Air Center, so we could then repurpose that revenue stream for new debt service. Is that
That is correct.
okay? MAP parking lot, where are we at with that?
Armstrong is working on the design of it now. We've committed a little bit of money already to it for the required independent fee examination that the FAA requires. So we've already done that. We've cut the PO to Armstrong to do the design. We've had 2 or 3 probably design meetings, I think now, where we've been talking about that. So that was something we were working to get to closer to a design and present that to you guys as well, but we just weren't there yet.
Okay. And the final one I'm looking at here that I'm curious about is the ramp rehab. We have a phase 1 and a phase 2. Those are both MAP grants.
That is correct.
God, we're getting some serious MAP money finally.
And trying to get more.
I understand. Okay, so the tear down pad on the perimeter, that area there is where you've been talking about using some of this money to redo that ramp. Is that correct?
Correct.
And will this cover that?
We haven't been offered that grant yet, but that was the intent. That's
Okay.
been in the discussion.
And the first one, phase one, is that already committed to a particular area, or could that be moved over to?
That grant, we have the grant, but we have not begun the project yet. I think it's just a backlog, quite honestly, that we just haven't gotten to yet. But these guys have worked on part of it, but we haven't begun to do the bidding and all of that. That's the next phase, is do the task order with them and the bidding.
Okay. I was stalling here so that you guys can come up with more questions. So, in other words, I didn't do my job. All right, Mr. Spiritu.
Well, I'm trying to understand these financials. First time I've seen these, so thanks for getting us copies in advance. One, I probably missed it trying to read through the slides real quick, but the UDAG funds, is there a reason we can't use those, or what's stopping us or preventing us from using those funds?
Well, again, the council did authorize them to be used for capital for the Air Center. And that's just, until it's, dedicated for a specific purpose, it will just sit there. But it is specifically for the Air Center.
So also to flesh that out a little bit, Parker is working on a resolution to go to legal this month, to go before the council to ask the question of whether they want to dedicate that UDAG money to the Hangar 84 doghouse project.
Thank you.
I think the short answer is we just hadn't decided where to spend it.
Yep.
And that was really my question, is do we have a plan forward on using those funds?
Yeah,
in the near
now
future
it's-
for some of these projects that we've got in the queue?
And the Hangar 84, I think, is, in my mind, the best shot to use it. And then retire that whole line item. Okay. Wow. We spend a lot of money out there.
Yeah.
And this does not include the rebuild of 1735 even, does it?
That's coming up later. Yeah, we're not really quite that far along on that yet.
Okay,
It's 23, I believe. Does that sound right?
okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Christopher, welcome back.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the next topic is the strategic business plan. This was one of the, I think in the interview, probably the second most question that was scenario-based when the team was trying to select. So I do have an extensive background in business development, strategic business planning. One of the things I used to do was for Alaska Native corporations, so everyone understands, is they would get a NAICS code, which is like a code for them to do a certain occupation. There was federal grant or federal contracts set aside for that. So basically what they would do is they would start a business, and then when that NAICS code reached its life cycle, they would either change the name or they would create another company. So I got pretty good with that. So this comes second nature, so I was able to present this well. So one of the things that we're looking at with Roswell, with the airport, is we're doing operations, we're doing things, but we don't necessarily know why we're doing them. That's one of the things I want to focus on is we bring the team together, we get focused, and then we present it to this commission, and then we finally submit it to the full council. And by doing that, what we do is we start educating so that everybody's on the same page. One of the things that I look at here, and I'm not going to go digress too negatively in it, is a lot of people have ideas of what we're doing, but they don't necessarily know what we're doing or why we're doing it. And I think that's why we've got to create a strategic business plan so that, one, the team knows, then we can educate this commission, and then we can educate the full council. So with that, we look at, vision. Because right now we're in operations, we're trying to grow or whatever, and we've skipped like 5 steps. Because we really don't have a true vision, really don't have a true mission statement. And without that, we can't hold ourselves accountable we can't give you anything right now to hold us accountable, and the full council can't hold us accountable. So one of the reasons that we need to develop a strategic business plan is for the most part, is to hold us accountable so that we can show we know what we're doing and why we're doing it. And everybody understands what's going on. And it's going to involve, getting community relations involved, because it's going to have to be an education thing as well. But for us as a team, for the Air Center, we need to do it as well, because once we have that down and everybody's on the same page, our growth now is looking good, but it's going to be even better. Probably don't need to lecture the choir, because everyone here has probably experienced that. So it would probably be easier if I just answered the questions.
All right, questions?
Steve, are you going to be asking for some input from community, or what is your approach for this plan?
Yeah, and that, to do an accurate, you do need to get community support and community input. But the first step would be for the team, the airport center, to come together and see what their vision is. Then we bring it to you and to get your input, and then we go to the community for the input. Yeah, it needs to be a process where we're partners, like EDC needs to be involved in it. All of our partners, even our tenants, everybody associated with the airport needs to have input in that, because it references them too. And when I've done this for major cities, is the more input you have from your clients, your tenants, everything, the more successful your plan is. But we need everybody's input.
One of the things I'm appreciate about this group is I think this is going to be an excellent forum for this, because of you folks, what you represent and what you bring to the table is an opportunity to really look at this. And I see this, maybe I'm wrong, but I kind of see this also dovetailing with the airport master plan project, which we're going to be starting to look at in this summer sometime. And so I'm curious to see what we start with. I like the idea of you guys coming up with a draft, but
Yes.
I have a pen.
We expect that, and that's, when Mr. Stark and I had the conversation, is that one of the reasons we wanted to bring it to this council is that with this council, you're right. We got the education piece, which we can start doing the analysis. We got EDC that can do the market and the environmental analysis. So we've got the lawyer, we've got, yeah, and we've got the MRO, or not MRO, I apologize, the representative. So, that, who's quasi-tenant. So what I'm saying is that that's a good base, and then we take it to, our current tenants, and then we can start educating the community, full council. But you're right, it starts with the base, it starts with your vision, and then we'll get it to you so that you can start marking it up.
Okay.
But it has to be full involvement. I mean, and this is what I told Mr. Stark, and I think we're ready for it. I thought we were going to wait a while, but we've got too much growing for us to stay focused down here. We're going to miss some steps. I would rather us grow complete, because that's going to be more whole and it'll last longer than if we start piecemealing it.
Now, one of my pet peeves, and you guys know this, and I want we kind of bring everybody to speed, is that our leases, this was a subject we took a look at, and then COVID hit, we lost Mr. Bleth, and so we took a step back from that. We've kind of frozen, and my understanding is that you want to go ahead and hold off on rebuilding our lease, our standard lease document, until we get the business plan done.
Okay, so
We're
we're probably going to do it both at the same time.
There comes an attorney.
Yeah.
I understood that the attorney had an opinion.
He's an attorney.
So I hear. Yeah, I think the lease boilerplate, at least as we've got it right now, I mean, I know it hasn't changed in a long time, but I'm of a little bit of the opinion that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Right now, I don't know that there's a pressing need to revise the boilerplate that's in there. Most of those terms are kind of the universal lease terms that are in every lease agreement out there. So I guess if there's specific things that you guys think should be looked at, I'm open to it, but I don't know that at this time there's really a need to completely take our boilerplate apart and rebuild it. It might just kind of be an unnecessary effort.
Okay. I thought there was places where it's still referred to it as the Roswell International Air Center. And
Yeah.
that's all been fixed.
So
I'm just being nitpicky here.
Yes, and I think you're right about that, and you're channeling Counselor Stubbs now, bringing up these things to us that we should have fixed a long time ago, and because, it didn't really affect anything, we never really got around to taking the international out of RAC. It's still in there, but in terms of structurally, in terms of the actual language in a legal sense, I don't know that it needs to be changed, particularly at this time.
Well, one of the other things, and I'm just throwing this out because I want you guys to be aware of it. One of my other pet peeves, and Mr. Stark knows this, is I believe the Flight lease is on the 10th addendum.
10th or 11th, something like that.
And the underlying original document is with Greater Southwest Aviation. So you have to have a notebook, literally, with all the addendums to know where it's at. And I want to never have that again. So where I'm going with this is some type of policy that addendums are only going to be for rent amounts, not changing the conditions of a lease, something like that. What I want is this group to look at this kind of stuff to see if we get it right, because I just don't want us to be in that hole again where if you don't have addendum 6, you don't know of a significant change that occurred.
So I'll jump in there for a sec. And
Please.
talk about, not really about that, but about more the holistic approach. So these are the conversations that Steve and I had a little bit that, after you and I had talked and it had been discussed briefly in these meetings, but that's part of what brought us all the way back to the strategic business plan again. Because we believe if we start at the top and we do our mission, we do our vision, we look at goals, we look at actionable items, those actionable items and policies and those type of things are going to fall right in there. And that's exactly what we're thinking, that it will drive it from the top of, who we are, where we're going, those type of things. And we will absolutely address that type of thing in the lease management or property management policy, which we already have, needs to be reviewed. It's not bad where it is, but we've grown since we wrote it in 2017. And so we need to go back and both change that to where we are today, which, again, I kind of come back to that process that we don't know 100% where we are today, but if we'll figure that out, we'll change that in the policy, that one or any other that we need to change. And then we'll look at the lease issues, we'll look at the things that changed when we built the new ordinance last year, and we built the rules and the minimum standards, and dovetail all that together, because that lease policy is the third piece to those 3 documents. So
Okay.
that's why, to me, in my mind, all of this comes together.
Okay.
I promise, it'll come together.
Okay. No, I want us all to be kind of chewing on this, because I think this is the group that's going to, I'm pleased with how we handled that rewrite of Section 5 and all those, and the meticulous way that was handled, and I'd love to see us show the same expertise on this, on both the business plan and candidly the master plan.
Right. And the goal of this is once everybody's on the same page, we'll get a pattern down to where the leases won't be so complicated and it won't be so time consuming, because everybody will be on the same page on what the intent and the purpose is.
One of the things I don't think we resolved, and this came up when Cabu was buying out Stewart, was that they needed to have some documents executed before a city council meeting could vote on it. And do we have a way of delegating certain interim authority to the city manager? We never did. We never formally addressed that, did we?
One thing we did do in the last lease policy was we moved lease reassignments to the city manager.
Okay.
So when a company gets bought out and they want to reassign the lease to the new company, the city manager can do that. It doesn't have to go before council.
Okay. Once again, I'm stalling here, so you guys can think of questions. All right,
Thank you.
I did my best. Okay, item number 10.
I won't even stand up. So, yeah, I'll stay right here. So number 10, it's real short. We've been working this for a while, as everybody knows. The step that we've taken recently, and full disclosure, I got a lease to air sale earlier this week, so we're waiting on a response from the written lease that we had with them. We were all verbal at that point, and so I'm just waiting on a response on that lease that we delivered to them.
Okay. Microphone.
Progress.
Progress. Slow, but it's progress. And I'll take the hit for this month being slow. I was slammed.
And what about the Gen Air pad? Anything on that?
The Gen Air pad, they're doing dirt work on that one, so they're getting that area ready to do the concrete pouring, so that's moving along.
So they're actually moving dirt?
Yeah, they are. What they're doing right now is they're bringing dirt in to put on the area to raise it up to where they want it. So they've been bringing truckloads of dirt in for the last week or so.
Cool. All right. That's really progress. Right? Okay. Okay. Item 11.
Item number 11 is the new water line running over to the southeast side, and I'll toss the ball to Mr. Mike Garcia of Armstrong.
Come on down, Mike.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, Mayor. Water line update. I'll just go cut, we started a month ago, so we had the entire project team here in Roswell. We attended the project kickoff meeting. We did a site visit with the Public Works Director, center staff, and we were able to finalize the pipeline alignment entirety, so we have that. We finalized that on March 17th. Our subconsultant, HDR, has started the development of hydraulic modeling, and that's to confirm the sizes for all the water lines throughout the project. The primary hydraulic modeling results are anticipated to be completed mid to late May. At that time, we'll get those results, and we'll get with the Public Works Director to make sure those are satisfying all the requirements that you want. The field surveying, that's been completed, and that was on-site completion was done, and we provided that to HDR so they have all the information. HDR and Armstrong have teamed to meet with the Public Works Director as far as the tank sizes, the new ones, to make sure we have the right proper elevations. All the as-built, all the information, moving with that. And our sub-consultant HDR, they started the development of plan and profile drawing. So that's where we're at.
Okay, questions? Okay, so design work gets completed.
Sir.
Then we go out with an RFP for the actual construction?
Yes, what we'll do is we'll get all the plans and specs put together, get with the Public Works Department and their center group, and we'll get ready to bid.
And just an estimate on when you think that might go out for bid? I'm not going to hold your feet to the fire.
All right. It's on record, right?
Okay, well, maybe I will. All right. Maybe I will.
September, October, we're really hoping to get it on.
Okay, so October. That's fine. I think it gives us an idea. Question in my mind, I'd like to keep this group informed on it, but do we really need to bring this back next month, or could we talk about it in June?
I'll be honest with you, the modeling is really exciting in the engineering world, but we're not very exciting people. But honestly, it's just modeling, so I'll be honest, there's not much I'm going to be able to report in a month. Maybe in about 2 months, we'll be able to say, hey, we've gone to the Public Works Director with this that time or something.
Okay, so You guys think June would be okay?
Unless you guys really want to see some hydraulic modeling and hydraulic grade lines.
Well,
That's pretty exciting in engineering.
hey, I'm an old mechanical, so, you know,
I don't talk mechanics.
Mr. Mayor, there might be different levels of interest in that.
what's that?
There might be different levels.
Oh, Dr. Powell says there could be different levels. Okay, let's shoot for a June meeting update. How about that?
That worked for us.
Okay. Unless anybody else objects. Okay.
Are there any questions? I just want to say real quick, it was great to be here last week, sit in on the 139. I want to make a note that wind cone was not put in by Armstrong. And that rule actually just changed. They'll fix it with the reconstruction of 17.5. So, but it was a good. The airport looked great. 39 inspection went really, really well.
Okay. Very cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We had a tag team, MRO of the Americas.
Yes, we are, so I'll stay right here again. Not a ton of update there. I think the bottom line really is we're pretty much ready to go. Juanita has arranged all of the logistics for us, and we've got our travel and hotels, all those things ready. We've got everything set up for the booths. It'll all be there ready for us Monday to set up. The one piece that I've asked Mr. Christopher to do is to kind of look at the attendant list and see who we want to contact ahead of time and start making those appointments. So that's really his part of the show. So with that,
Well, the investors, the potential investors and the builders are coming to Orlando now that we've had that conversation on Saturday. We sparked their interest. They're doing preliminary assessments and seeing what they need else from us. So I think it would be a good time for them to come down so that they'll have everybody that they need to talk to at the same spot. The other one that we looked at is we've got some connections with Anchorage International. I've reached out to them to see if they'll entertain. There's some projects that they do where they need subcontractors, and that may be some opportunity for us here. So, and then other than that, there's a few that I need to work with EDC that aren't really flight line or air or they're more logistical, and I think that would be a good opportunity to process. So I'm going to try to make the connections and do the handoff.
Mr. Mayor, the EDC will be there. In fact, I'll be there. We'll be partnering with together, and we'll be at appointments and meetings with companies for possible opportunities. So I already have a list of appointments set already, and I anticipate we'll be tag teaming and working together to do the same thing with some of the others that they have already lined up.
Okay, so you're there. Matt, you're going, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I was going to ask, what is the event you guys have planned for the entertaining your clients?
We have the mayor.
Okay.
Why am I scared?
So the question still remains, right, Matt?
Oh, very much so.
We'll figure it out. We've been doing that a lot here lately, so we'll be pretty good at it. Figure it out as we go.
There is Disneyland close by, so
All right.
get a mouse or something.
We're scaring me. Don't scare me. Don't scare me. Obviously, we'll report on the MRO in the May meeting. Kind of give everybody a heads up and talk about how it's going. Well, we've already done 13. Item number 14. Mr. Stark.
we are still in the process of finalizing the grant. Lydia Ortiz and I from EDA have been playing phone tag all this week, and I'm going to try to touch base with her again after this meeting. I've been gathering up the commitment letters from our partners in the 84 Doghouse project. So that's really where I am. And she's got another, I'm trying to remember what she said, it isn't a proposal, but she had some more information to give us that may change that part of the project. So I don't know how to report that because I don't know what it is yet, but that's what I've got to get back with her on. So hopefully we'll be done with our part of that within the next week or two. we've got to redo a couple of the grant paperwork forms once we figure out how all these numbers come down. One thing that we know, I think, is that the LEDA money will probably be similar to what the state's doing for Ascent. And so it would be a rent abatement type of number. So that money falls back on us instead of the state EDD as another partner, because it'll flow through CAVU and then to us in rent. So that's one number that'll change. And then I've been talking to state aviation in the last week to try and finalize the grant that they're going to do. They need a little bit more paperwork from me. I'll get them that today, and we'll move on. Still don't know if we'll get that grant, but it still looks positive. So that's about the best report I can do on that.
Okay. I was hoping we'd get a little more detail on how many dollars are coming from different places. I know some of that's been worked on, but I wanted this body to see it. We're actually cobbling together from at least 4 different sources.
Yeah, I wish I could give final numbers, but we were looking at probably $500,000 LEDA. We're looking at $500,000 from the tenant. We were looking at $500,000 from state aviation. We were throwing the UDAG at it at 1.25, and then we had a gap that we needed to fill over the 2 million. I think I got them all.
Yeah, and so the gap can be filled possibly with a revenue bond if we pay off the 1081. Am I right on that?
Correct. And it might be, we might be able to fill it with a revenue bond even without paying off the 1081, but certainly that's a piece of it.
And then that does not include the monies that we would have for the ramp improvement,
No, it does not.
which would also be part of the project.
Yes.
Okay.
Part of the overall project. Another thought that we've discussed and haven't discussed with this group would be when we know a little more about we'll have some flexibility in the ramp project because it's done in areas. In the area where the redo in front of 84 would be is part of the areas that we're programming to be redone. So if we look at bonding a little bit more to fix that area, then we can also get more area of the ramp fixed. We can shift it around that way, or we can split those funds a different way. But we have some flexibility there.
Do we need to move some water lines, or is that going to be on?
There is a water line that runs under the road right there next to that. I don't know if we need to move it or if we'll just pave over it. I'm pretty sure that if we don't want to abandon it, we don't have to. There are fire hydrants there that'll have to go, but the line might be able to stay in place. And I'll leave that to people smarter than me.
Understand. All right. We need to stay on this one too, if you don't mind. Next month, talk
Yes.
some more about it. Commissioners, anything on this one? Yeah, put it on. Because I would like to see the actual numbers presented. And here's another thing I would ask both you and Mr. Christopher is, when you do can you embed into your PowerPoint the numbers? Like you gave us some, you kind of read us off some numbers. If we could have those actually before us, it's easier to follow.
Certainly. And we can, when we send the stuff that Juan had, we can just include some stuff in there too. A quick summary of that in that group of emails.
Okay. Very cool. Agenda items for the May meeting. We, commissioners, need to elect a chair and vice chair, so be thinking about that. So we will have that as an agenda action item next time. I wonder if we want a presentation from a representative of Berkshire Hathaway on the bus plants being on the market. What do you think? Okay,
They have a really nice video.
cool. Let's see it and see if there's, ask them for an update. Anything else that, we're going to talk about MRO of the Americas after the fact. And anything else? Okay. Yeah, if you want to, if you can just do a rough, any kind of rough outline, something like that you can hand out to us, and, yeah, I like that.
I'll have your rough outline by the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
We start looking at that.
And I would say, as we look at that project, the strategic business plan project, expectation-wise, we shouldn't expect this to take a couple of meetings. It's going to take a while.
Yeah.
So my thoughts are, let's just put it on the agenda for the next several months, or let's decide, we take a break and do it every other month or something like that, whatever we want to do. But I would say let's kind of plan that out ahead, and then we'll just see, and maybe next time we can set a schedule a little bit better once we take a look at the draft. But that's kind of my thoughts is, I don't know if we want to do it every month. We may get tired, and we don't want to get tired because it's too important.
It is, but I looked at how we handled the Chapter 5, the rewrite of all that, the aviation section, and we worked on that every month for what?
We did, and I'm okay with that too. Just want to see what you guys thought.
I think it's, yeah.
I just know sometimes you go, oh, not that again, and we don't want to
When
get.
did we ever say that to you?
No, but I did.
It won't
And
be
I wanted it
boring to
done.
me, I promise you that.
Okay.
Plus, we'll have the energy from the MRO, so that we can start incorporating that
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, and we got that, and public participation. Anybody want from the, Mr. Conley, come on up.
Larry Conley, 2815 in Cantle Boulevard. I want to thank you all for having this meeting in the afternoon. I can now go to the county meeting in the morning and stay for the whole meeting. And I think it's wonderful. This time is also back there. I think there were more county guys.
They're from the detention center. The escapees.
Okay. But it's nice to have them because I know Roswell owns the airport, but it is in Travis County. And maybe we can get some people from state delegation come to these meetings. Thank you.
All right, anyone else wishing to jump up there? Anything from Air Sale? You guys are busy, aren't you? Come on up. No, we get. All right.
At least tell us a joke, Randy, something.
Yeah. Anything else from Armstrong? All right. Very good. I guess our next meeting is May 20th, I believe. And I have 3 o'clock, and we're adjourned.